And so now let's talk about the approaches or the techniques for cost estimating. We have two fundamental approaches here. Fundamental means they are all the basic methods, okay? And built upon these two, we were going to have a more detailed or more dedicated techniques. So the two fundamental approaches are top-down or bottom-up. That's the two the names of the two approaches. What is top-down method? So top-down method is when you want to estimate the cost of something. You first you are gonna collect a bunch of historical data, like a historical cost of that item or that type of project for the similar project or item, and then you want to modify that cost data with time and activity level. Okay, so maybe you have the cost of the house 2 years ago, and then you consider the market change, the interest rate, and then you say, okay, I guess I estimate that there will be 3% increase in the price. So the current price might be the price 2 years ago times 1 plus that 3%. Okay, so that's how you estimate. You estimate based on the historical information, and you modify that with the time and activity level. This type of estimation is very broad and very general without much details. So usually it's not very accurate. It just used to give you a bigger picture of like the scale of the cost. Okay, is it gonna be a 1,000 thing, or is it gonna be a 10,000 thing? It's just giving you a scale. And the second approach is called bottom up. And bottom up approach is to break down one project into small units, and you estimate each single unit just like in this graph. Okay, so you break down this into different parts, and then you estimate the cost for each part, and then you sum them up. So this approach will give you much more details than the first one, because every estimate is only for a small part, so it's more accurate, but it's more time consuming, right? Because you have to break it down, and then you have to estimate several times, several items, and then you sum it up. So while the two approaches both have their pros and the cons, it depends on like what type of project cost estimation you're doing. Okay, now let's take a look at an example. So now we want to estimate your college cost for the next school year. Think about that. How would you do that? Okay, so if I want to do that, I may just go ask my roommate. Okay, so maybe my roommate is a year senior than me. I'll just ask her like, hey, I'm a freshman, so I want to know what's the cost for school year. Do you know your cost for your last semester? And then maybe she will tell me, okay, my cost is like 15,000 last year in total. And I would say, okay, so I would think like if we have the same type of costs, like okay, we're in the same school, the same college, and we both dining on campus, both live on campus, and we both don't have cars. So our spending structure or expense structure is pretty much the same. So I would say, okay, for me, maybe my next school year will be pretty much the same. It's 15,000. Well, to be more accurate, I may want to add or consider the interest rate for the inflation, right? So maybe it's 1% inflation rate. So my budget for the next school year is gonna be 15,000 times 1 plus that 1% inflation rate. So this type of estimate is called top down, because I just use the historical data I get from my roommate, and I compare our school life, and I figure out it's pretty much the same. So I can safely use her data, but I also modify that data with the inflation rate. Okay, so that's exactly what top-down approach is. And here, in this example, what I listed here is the same as what I just described. So first step, you're gonna get a historical data from someone else, from internet maybe. So average annual cost for last school year was 15,750. Maybe that's the number for yourself. If you are not a freshman, you already have a historical data for yourself, right? And second, this amount includes tuition, the fees, university housing, and the weekly meal plan. So you want to make sure the structure of the fee is the same. And third, you need to modify that based on recent past increases. This given amount is likely to, maybe you think it's going to increase at 6% annually. So your next school year's cost is gonna be 15,750 times 1 plus that 6% increase. The second approach is bottom-up approach. So the first thing is you have to break down your school year cost into, I broke it down into these 3 parts. So tuition and fees, housing and dining, and other indirect costs like the books, supplies, loan fees, transportation, personal, and other expenses. Okay, and for each part, you are gonna have 3 scenarios. The 3 scenarios is if you live on campus, if you are off campus, if you are with your parents. That will change the fee for each part a little bit, especially the housing and dining, right? And then for next school year, you're going to estimate each of these costs based on the historical data, okay? And then you're gonna add it up again. Let's say, so this is the data for previous school year, and for the next school year, you may want to, well, the tuition, the fees stay the same. So you wanna use the data 58,540, because you might have same number of courses. So you can use this data, this cost directly. If you are going to have lower course load, this cost might be lower. And the second part is housing and dining. Well, maybe you decide that you don't want to stay on campus or live on campus for the next school year. You want to, rent a place. So that the number you're going to use is this number. So it's gonna be 8,700. And then for the other indirect costs, they are pretty much the same. Okay, so maybe you decide to buy a car, so your transportation cost is gonna be higher, right? And then the total number is going to be higher as well. So let's say maybe that car is a second-hand car and the cost could be, second-hand maybe 10,000. So your cost is gonna be plus 10,000. Okay, so it's gonna be 4,476. And you wanna sum this up together. And then you maybe give it an increase rate, like 6%. That's gonna be your total cost of the next school year, okay? But this method will give you some details of the cost structure. And for each cost part, you can have a better estimate, right? You can consider if you wanna live on campus or if you wanna buy a car, and you reflect that change in this. Okay, so this is the two approaches, top down and bottom up.